Hey everybody, welcome to Epic Brew. I'm Tom, and today I'm doing something a little bit differently. Instead of a gameplay video featuring a specific weapon, I decided to take some time and make 4 builds for new players that use 4 very different weapons that I think will really resonate well with players who may be intimidated by the wide range of weapons that are available to them at the start of playing Mordhau. So hopefully after going through these 4 builds, newer players will be more comfortable with expanding out, but I've made 4 special builds directly for new players to kind of create and test out and really learn the mechanics of Mordhau with. So I want to just go over the Longsword build I've made, an Eveningstar build that I've made, a Spear build that I've made, and then the Longbow build that I've made. Like I said, 4 very different weapons. We'll go through each of them one by one relatively quickly. But if you have any questions, obviously you can leave a comment and I'll be in the comments answering any questions that you have. So first up, new player longsword build. Fireproof, friendly, tenacious, going over the perks really quickly. Friendly 50% damage reduction received and dealt to team members. As a new player, you're going to make mistakes. As somebody who's played the game, I'm level 150. I'm still smacking my teammates in the back of the head. Friendly is essentially a must. Fireproof reduces fire damage by 80%. As a longsword user, you're going to be on the front line a lot. And enemies like to throw fire pots and clumps of enemies. It is just the way of Mordhau. You're going to get caught on fire a few times. Fireproof really helps you to be able to focus on getting out of the combat situation you're in without just literally having to just sprint out of any kind of fire that you happen to be standing in. So fireproof, you can take a few extra steps through the fire and not die from it. Really handy to have. Tenacious, passive health regeneration, 66% faster. All that means is when you take damage, as long as you don't take more damage, sprint, run, or attack, or sprint, jump, and attack, your health will regenerate automatically, and with Tenacious it regenerates 66% faster, so notably faster than it would without Tenacious. As far as armor for this build, 333. So you can always tell the type of armor it is by how many segments the shield is broken into. So right now there's 3 segments, right? So it's level 3 armor. If it's one solid shield, that means it's level 1 armor. If there's one line through it, it's level 2 armor. And if it's kind of like a ghost, like here we go, let me show it to you real quick. If there's no filling to it, that's level 0 armor, and that's not very good. You don't really want that. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was level 1 armor. Yeah, anyway, you know what I mean. Let me toss back the level 3 armor back on there. Doesn't really matter what you pick. As long as 333 armor. The gear, longsword, bandage, throwing axe. Bandage, when you take damage, you can quickly use a bandage to heal yourself so you can get back into combat faster. And then throwing axe is good. It's my favorite throwable weapon because you can just kind of chuck it at an enemy who you damage but didn't kill. They might try to run away from you. You just hit him square in the back with it. It does a good chunk of damage. So a tip to keep in mind when you're building any kind of Mordhau character, if you go to the advanced button right here, in any weapon there's the advanced button. You click it and then you can see how much damage the weapon does. So the throwable, because you can only throw it, there's only one set of damage, like a damage chart here. But if you go to the longsword and advanced, then you can see like, oh, okay, like the strike damage, the stab damage, and then you can switch it to the alt mode or the default mode to see the different speeds, the different damage types, anything else that may change with it. So as a new player, you're going to want to familiarize yourself with what your weapon of choice can do, and the advanced button and the advanced info menu, really helpful. So you're going to want to remember that as you build classes and investigate new weapons. So that's the new longsword build, new player longsword build. The Eveningstar build, here we go. 332 armor. The Eveningstar costs more than the longsword, so you're going to have to kind of adjust the build a bit to have either less perks or less secondary items. And in this case, I only went with bandages and level 2 legs instead of level 3 legs. So bandages, we already went over that. It's necessary to have. Eveningstar's range, slightly less than the Longsword, and it's slower too. So this is kind of a character that you're going to want to, move in with your teammates, get the heavy hit in, and then maybe step back. And either if you didn't kill the enemy with your heavy hit, your teammate probably will be able to. This isn't really a kind of build that you want to get in like a 1v1 or a 1vx situation. As a new player, you're going to want to stay with your team, get the damage output that the Eveningstar deals to enemies, which is very notable here. I'll bring it up so that we can look at it. It's look at that. Instant kills, 2 shots for all this armor types. If you're hitting them in the level 2 or level 3 legs, it'll take more than 2 hits, but everything else is either 1 hit or 2 hits. The Eveningstar is slow, but it does not mess around. And it's the exact same perks that the Longsword class has. Pretty straightforward. So really, one or the other. If you want fast attacks that do decent damage, Longsword is your pick. If you want something that's a little slower but really hits hard, go with the Eveningstar build. Both builds relatively similar. It's just 2 different weapons with 2 different attack speeds and damage outputs. Really, really good builds for new players right there. For somebody looking for a more ranged melee option, there's nothing better than the spear. The spear is so long you can't even see it on the character build screen. But trust me, there's a very pointy end at the other end of it. 2-1 armor. The spear is 27 points. That's really going to limit you on the kind of perks and secondary items you can bring with you. I personally recommend having bandages with all your classes when you're a new player. It'll really help you stay in combat longer. The more you're in combat, the more you'll learn, the more you practice, the better you get faster, right? So bandages, pretty essential. Friendly is also the perk that I recommend for all new players, as I mentioned. The cleaver I picked because even the alt grip of the spear, which is a shortened, you hold the spear higher up the neck and it does better swing damage, but it's still a relatively long, cumbersome weapon. So if you're in a hallway with other teammates or like in an alleyway in Fatoria, any other kind of close combat situation, it'll be much more easy for you to pull out the cleaver and then kind of hack away quickly and swiftly against your enemies than it will be to kind of like waggle a spear around in a hallway. So it's a good fallback weapon. Ideally, you're going to be out in the open with a spear, taking down horses, which is why I have the Butcher perk. The Butcher perk increases damage against horses by 50%. So stab a horse, it does 50% more damage than if you didn't have the perk. It's a no-brainer. As a spearman, you're going to want to be focusing enemy horses down. The spear is the longest weapon in the game. It's the best weapon for taking out horses and for riding on horses. So even if you take the spear onto a horse with you, you can hit the enemy's horses if you're on a faster horse, depending on how much armor. This is a random tip, but depending on how much armor the horse has, that determines the speed of the horse. So a horse with no armor can outrun a horse that has full armor. So if you're on a horse with no armor, you can totally catch up to an enemy running away from you on an armored horse, and you can just stab that horse as they're trying to run away from you and just take them out real quick. That's a very useful tip to know. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Butcher, great for spearmen. Use the cleaver in close quarters. Everything else, this is just a great weapon to have to support your teammates. You don't really want to get into a 1vx situation on your own, so just stick with your team, scroll up at the enemy, and you'll do great with the spear. And then finally, last but not least, a lot of new players want to immediately jump into archery classes because bows are the most different weapon than all the other weapons in Mordhau. And as someone who loves the longbow, I started playing Mordhau and really fell into using the longbow. I understand. I get why people want to play. It's almost relaxing to play as an archer. But of the 3 bows, the recurve bow, the longbow, and the crossbow, the longbow is the best bow in the game. Recurve bow doesn't do as much damage. You can shoot it faster, that's true. But most players who are good will be able to block your shots no matter how fast you shoot them at them. And even if you're just peppering an enemy in the back, most of the time won't be enough to kill them. Longbow, that'll kill pretty much even heavily armored enemies. If you can hit them 3 or 4 times, that's usually enough to kill them. I'm gonna have you go with 1-1-1 armor, just so you have something everywhere, so you're not naked anywhere. Huntsman is crucial as an archer. So bows, crossbows, and throwables deal more damage against enemies using a bow or crossbow when hitting the torso or head. So an enemy archer is going to be your primary objective as you're playing an archer class, right? You're going to want to be looking for enemy archers who are harassing your melee soldiers, and you're going to want to take them out. You want to alleviate as much pressure from your melee teammates, who are really kind of the muscle of the team. You want to eliminate all the archers you can possibly eliminate before anything else. So Huntsman makes that happen. And essentially, as long as you don't hit them in the legs, you'll be one-shotting almost every archer that you see. So that is absolutely a crucial perk, along with friendly, because you're a new player. It's going to happen. You're going to shoot teammates. I still do it myself. Not as much as I used to, but you know, a couple arrows do find my teammates here and there. So having the friendly perk is really a courtesy for those kind of blunders. And supplied is one of the newest perks that was added in update 19, and it reduces ammo box resupply cooldown by 33%. So when you're out of arrows, you don't have to wait as long for the box to open up to get more arrows. Absolutely essential. And then we have the secondary dagger. Longbow is 33 points. That's a crazy amount of points for a weapon, but it is what it is, and that leaves you with very little to work with else. So pick the dagger. You're not going to really do too much killing with the dagger, but what it can do is, if an enemy surprises you, you pull the dagger out and you can just parry their attacks and hope that a teammate comes to your aid and kind of peels the enemy off of you, and then you can help your teammate by stepping back and shooting the enemy with an arrow or two. So don't use the dagger to engage. My main longbow build, here, I'll show it to you real quick so you can compare. But my main longbow build uses a cleaver. And you can build this too if you want, but this is going to be a little harder to play with because you don't have as much armor and you won't have as much access to arrows because you won't have supplied. But this is my archer. You can compare it again. I'll bring up the new longbow guy here. There you go. And yeah, so that's going to do it. I hope that you try these out if you're interested, and you know, maybe learn a thing or two, pick up a weapon that you haven't used before, whether it's the longsword, the longbow, the spear, or the Eveningstar. Don't let Mordhau intimidate you. It's a really fun game to get into. Once you start to pick up the basics, you'll branch out, try new weapons. A weapon that maybe you thought, that looks really boring, I don't want to ever use that. Maybe one day you'll try it and be like, wow, why haven't I been using this weapon all along? It's all about experimentation in Mordhau. Try this build, try this build. These are just 4 generic builds that if you don't know where to begin, hopefully these can serve as a foundation to kind of branch out, to try new perks, try different like secondary items, secondary fallback weapons, different types of swords. You do you. But really, you want to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong, because Mordhau is one of the most fun games I've played in a very long time. And I really hope that you can enjoy the game as much as I do. And that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like the video. Be sure to subscribe to catch new Mordhau videos every single day. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you want to join in the Epic Brew community, and why not, because we're a bunch of cool people, there's a link in the video description to our Discord server. So come on in, say hi. We do question of the day chats. We talk about Mordhau. We talk about whatever else I'm playing on the channel. Anything and everything. It's a great time. Join in, say hi, have fun. Meet everybody. Catch me streaming weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. There's a link to that in the video description. And that's going to do it. I hope everybody has a great day. And I'll be back tomorrow with more Mordhau.